Hello, everyone. I'm Megan Whalen. I work in the Division of Marketing and Communications, and our town hall for students at Memorial University is about to begin. I'm delighted to introduce Dr. Vianne Timmons, our President and Vice Chancellor, to officially get us started.
Hi, everyone. So glad that I'm here with you today. I want to begin by acknowledging the lands in which Memorial University's campuses are situated are in the traditional territories of diverse Indigenous groups, and we want to acknowledge with respect the histories and cultures of the Mi'kmaq, Innu, Inuit, and Beothuk of this province. Well, hello, students. Thank you for joining us. There is now over 150 on our town hall. I want to just extend a welcome, but especially a warm welcome to our new students. I want to just tell a story to our new students. I can remember when I was leaving to go to university, my mother took me to the bus station. I had one suitcase. She put me on the bus, and she wasn't an affectionate woman. So she just fixed my collar and said, don't talk to strangers, and put me on the bus, and off I went. And I can remember all the anxiety. Now, unfortunately, your mothers are going to say to you, sit at your desks and sign on. Very different story. A bit of housekeeping. The first 1,000 attendees will be able to log in and ask questions. And after that, attendees will be directed to a live stream where you can watch, but you cannot post questions. And right now it looks like we have lots of room so that you feel comfortable posing questions. Anyone watching the live stream can email questions to president@mun, and we have somebody keeping an eye on that account. For those of you who I have not met, and that's many of you because of COVID-19, I'm Vianne Timmons, and April 1st, I became Memorial's president. Joining me today to chat are our two vice presidents, our provost and vice president academic, Dr. Mark Abrams, and our vice president admin of finance, Kent Decker. And we have two associate vice presidents here, our associate vice president academic of students, Dr. Donna Hardy-Cox, and our associate vice president academic and dean of graduate studies, Dr. Amy Supernaut. And I want to welcome them to our panel. It definitely has been a strange 5 months for all of us. For me, it meant arriving in the province 2 weeks earlier than I anticipated so I could self-isolate. It's meant for me meeting hundreds, well, now I'm sure thousands of people remotely. I know for all of you, it's been a difficult time as well. For returning students, it meant doing an immediate switch to a fully remote semester. And for many, it meant packing up and leaving our campuses to return home. And then you have to make the decision whether you wanted to return in the fall. And I'm so glad that so many of you did. And new students, it was the hard choice of beginning the whole new world of university online. Let me tell you, you've made the right choice. I've met many people in my life who regretted not going to university, but I have not met anyone who regretted going to university. So 2 out of 3 isn't bad in terms of the university. Normally this time of year, the university will be full of students, you'll be figuring out your courses, moving into residence and meeting new friends. But you now will have to meet new friends virtually. You know, I took a long road trip this summer to get to know our university and province a bit better. I met a number of amazing students. 2 students who tracked me down when I was in Northwest River. A couple of weeks ago, and even this morning, I met some Seahawks varsity athletes on our main campus as they were leaving practice, and I went over and introduced myself and said hi to them. This morning, I met 2 young women on our basketball team that were first years, and they talked about how hard it was not having a graduation and now starting online. And I just watched Benjamin Oates on CBC. Some of you may get to see him talking about that his generation, your generation, will be known as ability to adapt to change. And that is so true. You know, we have to do so much virtually, but if you do see me around, and some of you have done it, please stop, say hi, introduce yourself. I really miss meeting students face to face. You know, I did see when I went across the province, Memorial's footprint doing so many things in towns big and small. And I met a number of students, and your enthusiasm and optimism was wonderful to see. Now we're launching our strategic planning process this fall, and you're going to be asked to come and be part of our consultation process. Please do that. We want your voice, your participation to help us identify where we're going to go the next 5 years. So keep tuned and watch for that strategic planning process consultation that will be coming. You know, we've been working really hard this summer to make the semester the best we could. And I encourage you to take advantage of everything available to you, in particular student supports. I'm so glad you joined us, all 200 of you, and I hope we can answer some questions that are important to you. And I'm going to hand the mic over to Mark Abrahams. Mark?
Thank you, Dr. Timmons. And again, I would like to echo Vianne's welcome to our new students. I mean, this is a weird year for all of us. Ordinarily, I would love to be meeting students as you come onto campus, but I just don't have that opportunity. So it's a difficult year for all of us. One of the challenges we have is we have a playbook that we normally follow for on-campus teaching. And this year we've had to throw out that playbook and come up with a whole new playbook as we develop new strategies and approaches to provide you with a high-quality education as we move to primarily remote learning. It's a challenge for all of us, and we encourage you to provide us with feedback. Let us know what works, let us know what doesn't work, because we have to modify and adapt as we move forward. Now, the point of this town hall is to answer your questions, and I know there's a number of you that have some questions regarding what is the plan for the winter term. Well, right now, we've not yet made that call, but we will be making that decision in the next few weeks in consultation with faculty, staff, and students. I want you to know that the decision we make with respect to the winter term will have your health and safety as our top priority. It will also be intended to ensure there is no interruption to the academic term. We want to make sure that all students who begin their academic program at Memorial will be able to complete their program without any forms of interruption. And lastly, we want to be able to learn from our previous experience. We know what worked, we know some of the things that didn't work, and all of that is going to build into our decision that we move towards for the winter term. You want to make sure that you have your voice heard as we move towards making this decision. So it's important that you speak to your student representatives. Catherine McLaughlin, who is Munsu's Director of Advocacy, has already provided us with some very helpful feedback in terms of things that we need to modify and improve as we move forward. So make sure you speak to your appropriate student representative or your representative within Senate. I also want to emphasize that we are focusing on accommodating students in these unusual times. We have rules and regulations, but we're not imposing these regulations in a heavy-handed manner. We have advised cooperative education programs, for example, to use academic leniency to manage program regulations, meaning that issues associated with a work term due to the current environment should not delay a student's graduation. I now want to turn this over to Ms. Angie Clark, Director of Academic and Student Affairs at the Marine Institute.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Dr. Abrahams. Thank you to the students for joining us today. Over the last number of months, the Marine Institute campus specifically has encountered unique challenges to ensuring student success, as many of our programs include complex practical training. Delivering our highly technical programs will continue to be a challenge, as many of them are nationally and internationally accredited. We are working diligently to find continuity in these programs for this academic year. Our campus's ongoing response to supporting our students is truly a collaborative effort. Working with faculty, staff, and our students, we developed MY Journey, an online orientation program for our new Diploma of Technology students. As well, we've launched the Startup program for both new and returning students. We realized that this really is a different semester and that all students require additional support. In reimagining support, we developed a set of expectations outlining what the fall semester would look like. These expectations were built on our commitment to students. We have also worked to transition our campus support services into our new and developing virtual environment for this semester. Our key message to all of our students continues to be that our virtual doors are open. We are here for you, and we are committed to your success. We strongly encourage students to engage in the opportunities to contribute to campus dialogue and to tell us what's working and what's not. We really want to hear from you all. Thank you, and I'll now pass things over to Mr. Decker.
Thank you, Angie. I also want to welcome all students to Memorial. It's been an interesting year to say the least, and I'm happy that you have joined us this fall. As Vice President of Administration and Finance, my role in the COVID response is largely on the administrative side, from shutting down and maintaining facilities in March to reoccupying and implementing a gradual return to campus. We continue to work with a variety of stakeholders, particularly with public health, to support the safety of the university community, while also allowing for a continuation of services to the extent possible. We are committed to continuing to provide quality programming to all of you. I encourage you to utilize the resources and supports available. Stay connected. There are many ways to engage with the university. Looking ahead, there are a number of priorities. While most students will learn remotely this semester, some of you are returning to campus, for example, some nursing students. So we need to ensure a safe learning environment. We're also looking at ways we can provide on-campus space for study space for students. We're working on that with Mark as well. The identification and consolidation of wins is also top of mind. During this time, we've seen many gains on the environmental front. Emptier parking lots, fewer cars on the road, reduced waste, lower emissions, less air travel, and in some cases, productivity gains. Positive change often comes from crises, and we can reflect on this. Do we, as a community, identify and hang on to the positives, or do we just go back to the way things were? Maybe some combination is the best outcome. If you have thoughts on this, join us this Thursday evening at 7:30 via WebEx for an event called After COVID-19, Staying Sustainable. Information has been shared on that event on Memorial's social media channels. The university units hit hardest financially by the evacuation of campus include residences, the bookstore, food court vendors, and of course the Works. The Works is partially reopened and is planning the remainder of the year now. One last note I would like to make concerns IT security. Countless criminals and malicious attacks are active online right now. We cannot stress enough the need to remain extra vigilant when clicking links, open attachments, or responding to emails. If in doubt, or if you think you may have accidentally disclosed login credentials, change your password and contact the IT department. We all continue to be able to do our part on many levels to support health and safety at the university. I encourage you to do the same. Thank you, and now over to Dr. Hardy Cox.
Thank you, Mr. Decker, and a warm afternoon. Good afternoon to everybody. It's great to welcome the students. It's kind of different doing it this way, but every opportunity that I've been invited to a WebEx or a presentation, I'm happy to be there, and so I'm delighted to be with you this afternoon. In my role, I provide the leadership for the units responsible for student support and services. And this includes academic support, leadership development, student experience, student health and wellness, accessibility, student residences, career development, and experiential learning. This fall, our focus will be on providing you with the best possible supports in a remote learning environment. Much of our focus this past summer has been and continues to be on helping students transition from high school to university life. Those are figuring out not just how university works, but how to do it in a remote environment. Many students took part in transition and orientation programs over the summer, and I hope you feel well prepared and ready to take on the semester. The supports and programming offered to you will continue to be available to you throughout the fall semester. To the returning students, while many of you have likely already taken online courses and experienced our learning management system, Brightspace, when you began your degree program, you probably weren't imagining that we would be in this place with continuing your education in a remote environment. So as you have been encountering these challenges, so have teams of student services professionals, faculty, and staff throughout the campus. We've been trying to create creative ways, innovative ways to help address these challenges so that we can support you academically. And one of the places that we created this summer is called MUN-UP, M-U-N-U-P. If you Google it, will take you right to the site. And this is an online resource site for students. And on that page, we've gathered a variety of resources that you will need to prepare for and undertake your academic journey. So whether you're a new or returning student, we're really pleased with this one-stop shop, which will help prepare you for the learning environment in the fall of 2020. We're also delighted to share with you today, and some of the first-year students may have gotten this in their Monday mail. We're launching today a virtual academic success center, and this is the beginning of something we're very proud of for Memorial. This center will be a place, again, a one-stop shop found within the hub, where you can go find information about academic help. You'll find the help centers listed there. You'll find out where you get technical support. And as we evolve our study space on campus, that this will be a place you'll go for that, as well as a variety of workshops and learning support information. So we're really excited about this today. You'll get the first phase of it rolled out today, and continue to check back, because over the course of the semester, we'll be adding much more to this. So I'm sure there's many questions that you will have over the course of the semester. And I want to assure you, as everyone else has on the panel today, that we are here on your side and we're looking for ways to innovate. So we really appreciate your questions. I hope you've had an opportunity to participate in some of the remote events in our fall 2020 welcome. There's certainly lots happening around our virtual campus, and I encourage you to keep an eye out to our social media pages and your @MUN mail addresses and mailboxes to find out more about what's happening throughout the fall. And I also want to remind you that there's one little word that will help you tremendously this term, and it's ask. And you can initiate any question you have at ask@mun.ch, or one-stop shop. It can be ask about anything. And we encourage you to use that email as you proceed throughout your semester if you have any questions. Now I'll turn it over to my colleague, Dr. Keshen on the West Coast.
Well, thanks so much, Donna. A warm welcome to everybody. I and my colleagues at Grenfell campus wish you all the best possible experience for the upcoming term. Besides myself, Ms. Carolyn Parsons, our fantastic registrar and director of student services, is available should you have any specific questions about our campus. While the online and remote experience from which we're compelled to operate is brought to Grenfell more students from a broader than normal geographic range, and particularly from the Avalon. And what we hope you're all going to discover about Grenfell is our commitment to provide you with what we call personalized learning. We're a smaller place, 1,400 students, average class size, if we're on campus, of 13. Grenfell has always emphasized student needs. It's not only evident with the accessibility of our professors, but also the responsiveness of all of our services. All of our student supports are fully operational, and I can assure you that our amazing professoriate and staff will be extremely responsible to all your needs. Reach out if you have any issues, including directly to me. Grenfell operates as a tight-knit community. We all know each other and will respond quickly to your questions, your concerns. Our library is ready to get you the material that you require. In some cases, they can arrange for delivery. They're also responsible for booking space on campus. Counselors are ready with remote service. The same is true with supplemental instruction, peer support, and for all those who are responsible for academic accommodation for arranging it. Should you require use of a computer, reach out to our ITS help desk. We have established and sent out information about 2 e-learning hubs. Grenfell is established in Port Saunders on the Great Northern Peninsula, and also in St. George's near Flat Bay. We've also identified resources in numerous other communities where internet activity might be a little bit spotty. Finally, if you go and check your MUN email, you'll see that we're having another online session on the 17th at 1:30 to find out and then to address any problems that you might be having. Thank you. And please do remember, we all know, every one of us know that this term for you is going to be tough, but we are only an email away, and we really, really want to help you succeed. So now it is on to my good friend and colleague, Amy.
Thanks very much, Jeff. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to all of our new and returning students. As the others have said, this is a semester like no other we've experienced, and we have spent a great deal of time preparing for it and trying to think through all of the circumstances we might face. We'll probably make some mistakes along the way, but as is always the case, we'll learn from those mistakes and build on our successes. I've been so proud of the university and the School of Graduate Studies over the past 6 months for the amazing work and time that they've taken to prepare for this semester. We've conducted a number of surveys. We've been listening to students and acting on your concerns. We've also been meeting with academic units, consulting with universities across Canada weekly to help plan for and address student needs quickly. We know that you're anxious. You're anxious about how you'll deal with your remote learning environment, about how time zones and internet outages will be handled, and about how we'll work to provide access to all students. Each of you have unique and individual circumstances, and we know that we will need to be flexible and nimble and to accommodate them as best we can. We've learned a lot about ourselves and each other over the last little while, and I'm really looking forward to learning with you, looking forward to a great semester and embracing the unique experiences that are coming your way. So I'll now hand it back to Dr. Timmons.
Dr. Timmons, you're muted.
Thank you so much. See what happens when you learn virtually? Sometimes you mess up and we'll make mistakes, as was said. Thank you to all of our panel members, and I'm going to ask our moderator to come in, introduce herself, and start to forward the questions.
Absolutely. I'm Megan Whalen. I work in marketing communications, as I said at the start of the session. And before I begin, I just want to point out that the background that I'm using and Dr. Supranan are using, they're all available to download by the entire university community. You can get those from Memorial's Flickr account, and there are more under development. So if there's a particular background that you're missing on campus, you can just let us know and we'll try our best to create that and share it widely. So I do have questions that were submitted in advance via email to ask the panelists, and I'm also going to be monitoring the Q&A function that you see on your screen. So if you'd like to ask a question, you can type it in there and it will come to me to relay to the president or the vice president or whomever the appropriate answerer is. Now, just to note, you don't need to change the default to send the question to a specific person. I'll be able to see them all as they come in, and that's the easiest way to keep it managed. And I will also let you know that the character limit for submitting questions is 250 characters. If questions are submitted longer than that, you won't get an error message saying that it didn't come through, but I also won't get a broken message. So please try and keep your questions short as you're asking them using that Q&A function. And I'd also like to be clear about the ground rules for today's town hall. Our panelists aren't able to answer any questions related to ongoing disciplinary issues, any legal matters before the courts, or any staffing or HR matters. Please do not ask questions that may infringe on someone else's privacy or that are very specific to your personal situation. Let's keep it respectful, informative, and a little bit fun. And I'll also ask our panelists to try to keep their answers brief so we can get to as many questions as we can in the limited time that we have. So our first question is for Dr. Abrahams. You noted earlier that the decision for winter semester will be made in the first half of the fall term. Can you talk a little bit more about the criteria for making that decision and if students are a part of the decision-making process?
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. So as I described in my opening remarks, there's really three criteria that we're using. Our top criteria, the most important criteria, is your health and safety. So whatever we do will be guided by public health decisions. The second is academic continuity. We want to ensure that once we begin an academic term, it's robust to changes in the environment. And the third is to build upon the lessons learned from our previous experience teaching remotely. So students are part of that decision-making process, and we recommend that you engage with your student representatives to make sure your voice is heard as we make that decision.
Thank you. And the next question is also for Dr. Abrahams. With the university restricting out-of-province travel, what is the plan for students completing degrees that require them to participate in immersive and experiential learning programs in other parts of the country and the world? If students are unable, due to university regulations, to complete this part of their degree, will they be able to graduate on time, or will they have to remain in university longer?
So again, thank you for that question. So students that are required to travel within Canada for experiential learning opportunities, so we're talking about co-ops, internships, and clinical placements, that's considered essential travel. So that travel is permitted under our regulations. It's just important to know that your travel is consistent with Newfoundland's guidelines on travel restrictions. If you're traveling outside the province, we ask that you confirm that you have a public or private health coverage during your placement. And we just want you to know once again that all of those decisions have your safety as our top priority. International travel, however, is obviously more complicated, and we deal with those on a case-by-case basis. Whatever happens, we're working very hard to ensure that students are not disadvantaged as a consequence of the pandemic. And so we've advised units to be using academic leniency as they use their regulations affecting student performance.
Dr. Timmons, I'm going to send my next question your way. Given the knowledge being gained regarding the ability to offer digital courses during the pandemic, is any thought being given to retaining this aspect post-pandemic? A growth in online courses, especially in the humanities and social sciences, which have no requirement for labs, would seem to be a way to grow the numbers of students without the need for increased physical infrastructure. This would also serve the needs of distance students, working students, and students with disabilities who may find it difficult to attend on-campus courses.
That is a great question and great comment. We have had online courses and remote learning before the pandemic. And now, as you know, we've created so many more. But absolutely, as we go forward, I think the options for students will be much bigger. We have 500 more students enrolled this September than we did last year this time. So we do know that for many students, the online option is a very positive one. We're looking at a continuing education arm, and that would work with our faculties to see what courses and what programs are appropriate to continue online. I also want to say, though, in talking to students, there's a real attraction of being face-to-face and with a professor in a classroom. So we will definitely be also having face-to-face instruction once this pandemic lifts.
Can you folks hear me? Having some network issues. Okay, great. So my next question is for Dr. Hardy-Cox, and it's about student health care. One student wants to know how out-of-province students can access campus health care that they pay for, and if they opt out, do they opt out for the year?
Okay, I think there may be a little confusion about the health care. The students purchase their student health plan from the student unions, both the grad and undergraduate. So those health plans can be used wherever they're physically located for prescriptions and other types of services. So those health plans can be used wherever the students are. The Student Wellness and Counseling Center has a health clinic, and that clinic can be accessed on campus. It's open now to students who are in the area, as well as through remote services. And the counseling services are provided remotely. So students will get services through the center for the most part if they're located in the city. Students who need medical services, they can get that in their home location under their provincial health plan. So it's really the student union health plan is available and can be used wherever they're located.
Thank you, Dr. Hardy-Cox. And my next question, I'm going to put to Dr. Hardy-Cox, and then maybe I'll ask Dr. Supernant to add on as well, perhaps. So how do you propose that we make meaningful friendships online?
That's a really good question. And we've been putting our head to thinking about that. And I'm convinced that I have a lot to learn from the students to find the full answer to that question. In terms of, there's so many ways that students can connect. We're very pleased with the student peer mentor program. Over 120 students volunteer their time and were trained this summer for 4 weeks so they could be mentors to first-year students. So we're creating smaller groups with experienced student leaders. So I would encourage the first-year students to participate in those groups. There's also on Navigate, there's an option that's your study app, an option to find study buddies in your class. How cool is that to find someone you can study with and pursue your course questions together. There's also the Student Union. They've invested a lot of energy this summer in working with their clubs and societies to make connections with clubs and societies on campus. And tonight I'm going to be at a coffee house with the undergraduate students. So there's some really cool things. There's people learning how to cook and all kinds of things on social media that's sponsored by our Student Life and Student Volunteer Bureau and other groups. So keep an eye to the social media, and anything that's sanctioned by the university would be a great place to stop in and say hi to us. Amy, I'm sure there's lots for the grad students as well.
Yeah, sure there is. I echo what Donna has said about reaching out to people in your area, student groups. Most of the departments have graduate student groups that are connected with the Graduate Student Union as well. So those sorts of disciplinary kinds of connections are going to be very important. Reach out to other students who are in your discipline. But then also there are larger groups. We are working through our Graduate Student Commons to put together online communities there. If you are registered for courses, you should be automatically registered into a Brightspace shell called the Graduate Student Commons, which has all kinds of tools and things like that, but it also has a community function with it. And then if you are an international student, or even if you're not an international student, the Internationalization Office holds regular social meetings. They have a family advisor, and so kids are invited to the social events, etc. So I think you have to be a little more proactive, a little more, I don't know, pushy isn't quite the word, but a little more active in trying to form those relationships. But I think it certainly can be done.
Is there anything that you'd like to add from the Marine Institute, Dr. Clark?
Sure. Thanks so much, Megan. And really just to build from a campus-specific approach, we are working with the Marine Institute Student Union and our Graduate Student Society that works in tandem with the Graduate Student Union to offer some more, I'd say, virtual fun events. I'd also encourage students to really, our Diploma of Technology first-year students, to connect in their program. We really do find, being a smaller campus, creating that sense of place and connection for our first year students really does start in their programs. And we really are hoping that we can have some program specific events and opportunities to connect with our program chair. So being a little bit uncomfortable, once you get comfortable with the technology and the mode of learning, we would really encourage students to step outside their normal comfort zone and to really make an effort to engage with their peers. And again, if people don't think we're doing a good enough job, or if they have great ideas as to how we can better facilitate that online, we're all ears.
And Dr. Keshen, is there anything that you'd like to add from Grenfell campus?
Sure. So a lot of the things that have been discussed we're doing, but we're going to be launching something else, which is to try and engage with our students around particular interests that they might connect with one another. For example, maybe a club that would like to discuss movies or books or politics, and that way they can make that connection by mutual interest, break down some of the barriers, and when they come back onto campus, they'll know each other to some extent already. So all the things that my colleagues are talking about, and that's one other idea that we've come up with as well.
Great. And before I move on to the next question, I'd just like to share some information that came in through the Q&A. Catherine McLaughlin lets us know that for undergraduates in the Munsu Health and Dental Plan, you can contact operations@munsu.ca to inquire about your plan specifically. So my next question is for Dr. Abrahams. How can we as students know if the professors are showing academic leniency?
Well, you need to take a look at what the rules and regulations are, and I guess it's really based upon your experience. If you're having issues associated with the regulations and they're a problem because of your personal circumstances, then the first thing you need to do is have a chat with your professor to determine if there is some ability to be more flexible with those issues. Generally, faculty should be quite accommodating because we're all dealing with this situation.
My next question I'm going to direct towards Dr. Timmons. I have a student who says, I try to have at least 2 hours a day to myself to avoid burnout on my work. Do you think that this is enough?
Well, for everyone, it's different in terms of how much time you need. But the fact that you're thinking of making sure you have a balance with your learning is really important. So, to get up and stand up and not be at that computer all day long is really going to be critical for your mental health. So I'm not sure if there's a formula that works for everyone, but I would tell all students, just be sensitive and aware of how your mind and your body are working through these challenging times. Reach out for support and help if you find you're getting anxious or things are not going well for you. And we have a ton of student supports. We want you to be successful. And again, to the student that put the question out, I want to just, I'm just looking for his name. I read his question. Noah, just good job in terms of thinking about what you need, and continue to do so, Noah.
Next question is also for Dr. Timmins. The student is wondering if there are any plans to reopen safely the QE2 library. The library is such a safe place for many students and is a crucial tool in academic success.
Thank you for that question, Sarah. And we are, stay tuned, because there should be an announcement about the library, these openings for study space. But I also want to mention that all of the library services can be accessed now remotely. So the librarians have been working all summer to prepare for the fall and to support you. So make sure you take advantage of that. But stay tuned to the next week or so. I think there'll be a message about the library, and I'll look to the provost to add to that comment.
Yeah, it's actually coming up a little sooner than that. The library will be starting to accepting bookings tomorrow for study spaces, with those study spaces becoming available on Wednesday.
There you go, Sarah. See?
Quick response. Okay, next question is also for Dr. Abrahams. Taylor asks, how has the university governance changed to reflect and adapt to the demands of the pandemic?
Well, actually, it's gone the other way around. So when the pandemic began, we moved to emergency operations. So we had a completely different governance structure specific to the emergency, but we have now returned to completely normal operations for governance.
I will also mention for Taylor, though, that we did keep Senate going over the summer. So Senate meetings that normally would not happen in the summer happened, and the same with Board of Governors meetings. We had extra ones so that we could keep our Board of Regents informed and up to date with what we were doing. And Senate wanted to make sure that we were preparing well for you as students. So that's why they wanted meetings over the summer. So that's a way, one of the ways that those two governance bodies changed.
Next question is also for Dr. Abrahams. Are there going to be makeup lab sessions for the missed labs for this semester? Because as a science student, I think I am not gaining the required exposure and scientific dexterity. Thank you.
And that's part of the conversation that we're going to be having as we make a decision on the fall term, is how do we deal with that issue? So I guess that's a relatively brief answer, but again, my normal role at this university as Dean of Science, I hear you very clearly. The laboratory experience is very critical, and so one of the issues we'll be taking a look at as we take a look at the winter term is what capacity might we have on campus to bring our students on to get some of that key experience, and I'll be relying upon faculty in the laboratory-based disciplines to provide us with guidance as we make that decision.
I'm going to ask Darcy if you can help get Sonia Knutson on the line. Sonia is the director of our, or Dr. Knutson, I should say, is the director of our internationalization office. And I have a question for her from an international student. Darcy is very quick. I see she's starting to appear. I'll just wait until she's fully there and then I'll ask the question. Sonia, if you're able, can you unmute? Okay, so this question says, I'm an international student, graduate and funded. What will happen to our program in winter semester because in remote studying with the usual disconnection of internet and so on?
Well, so a student that is studying remotely, who is an international student, should inform their supervisor or their professor if they're having any issues with that remote study. And those professors would be encouraged to connect with my office to talk through options for the student. So I can't say a one-size-fits-all solution because I would need to know so many things. I'd need to know the country of origin of the student, the particular topics being studied, the challenge of the challenges of the technical piece of all of that, and besides, what will be happening for the winter is not yet decided, and so we are working steadily to advocate with the federal government that they would, number one, speed up study permit application processing, and secondly, allow international students who have their study permits to be able to begin entering the country in a sort of a slow and steady way so that we can support and manage their quarantine.
I have a few more questions for you, Sonia, so let's stay on the line. Can new international students request a campus card if they are outside of Canada currently?
I don't know.
Okay, we'll find out the answer to that and we'll share it after the event by our social media channels. That's a good question. Another international student was wondering if there's any way I can be involved in the university apart from academically, including extracurricular activities.
Yes, we have many extracurricular activities going on. Best thing is if you can follow us on Facebook, but I understand that many people from countries that don't have Facebook would have challenges with that. So again, we do use alternate platforms for some of our activities. The best thing would be for you to write to international@mun.ca and ask for a list of extracurricular activities in which to participate. So that's international@mun.ca.
And I see another question here for Dr. Knudsen, so I'll keep going with those. What financial resources are being made available to international students to mitigate the effects associated with the economic effects of COVID-19?
They are numerous. We encourage any student who's facing a challenge to connect with my office, again, through international@mun.ca, and we walk them through case-by-case basis. There are resources within the institution to help in an emergency, but there are numerous other ways that we can support students who are facing challenges, including some through collaboration with the provincial government, and there's scholarships, there's bursaries, and certain limited student loans. But in the end, what we need is to sit down and talk with you on a case-by-case basis. And so the best way to start that process if you're facing a challenge is through international@mun.ca.
Great, thank you, Dr. Knudsen. I'm going to let you go for now, but I might call you back later, so stay tuned. Next question I have is for Dr. Timmons. Dr. Timmons, my screen just popped around. Where did it go? 1 second. Here we are. Given the continuing budget cuts from the provincial government for recent years, how will scientific research activities at MUN be impacted? And does the university have a plan to fund more research activities?
Well, right now we've been focused on the pandemic, but definitely our plan is to really look at ramping up our fundraising, our working with donors, looking at additional research chairs, trying to get more scholarships, bursaries for students. So there, I anticipate that we'll see the research continue to grow like it has in the past, post-pandemic. And we've seen some investment right now into research around the pandemic that our professors have accessed and been able to utilize, and they often hire graduate students to work on those projects with them. So I will see us keeping research top of mind as we go forward, and we're with concerns with funding.
Great, thank you. Next question is for Dr. Abrahams. In terms of traveling abroad, will that no longer be an option for students within the next 2 years?
Oh, that's asking me to look into a crystal ball that I can't really read. I mean, that's we take our direction from public health, and so if public health advises that international travel is permitted, then absolutely students can travel.
Sorry. Next question is for Dr. Hardy-Cox. How can we join university sports teams if our first semester is online? Not sure if you're connected to athletics or not, and if not, I can certainly find the answer afterwards and share it.
I'm thinking that question would be best sent to the athletics department because I'm not sure. I know there's certainly initiatives to support people to work out and to stay fit and to prepare for athletics, but I think we best get an answer from athletics directly on that one.
Okay, I'm not sure if I have anyone from athletics on the line to be able to hop in, but we'll certainly share a response on our social media channels after this call so that folks can get access to that information. Next question is for Dr. Timmons. Equity, diversity, and inclusion is a top priority to me and to many MUN students. How is the administration planning to make MUN more of an inclusive campus for students of minority groups?
I want to thank you, Sam, for that question, and also to say that it's a top priority for me also and for all our senior team. We're looking at hiring a vice provost, and Dr. Abrams will speak to that on equity, diversity, and inclusion to help move this agenda. We recognize also that students and faculty and staff, that there's an unconscious bias that we all have. And we're working on bringing in unconscious bias training for all of our hiring. We also are looking at cluster hiring for Indigenous faculty. So we're trying to do a number of things. One of the other areas with Black Lives Matters is we're working with our fundraising department to look at some dedicated scholarships for our Black students on campus. There's lots to do in this area, and you have a commitment from all of us that we're going to be focusing on it as we go forward. I'll ask the provost maybe to speak to the position that we've identified.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Timmons. And as she said, equity, diversity, and inclusivity is a high priority for Memorial University. In fact, just prior to this town hall, I chaired Dean's Council, in which Dean's Council will be releasing a statement about its commitment to equity, diversity, and inclusivity. I'd also like to point out that Memorial University is partnering with the University of Toronto on a workshop to deal with systemic anti-Black racism, which is taking place on October 1st and 2nd, and I would encourage all students to participate in that. But more specifically, we are currently recruiting a vice provost, equity, diversity, and inclusivity, who will take on this as a major leadership role. We're also in the process of recruiting an associate vice president, research Indigenous, as well, to add to our capacity on equity, diversity, and inclusivity issues. And we also have an indigenization strategy that we're currently working on, which is in the consultation phase.
Great. Earlier we had a question about campus cards. Some of you may have seen in the Q&A field, but Dr. Hardy-Cox identified that campus ID cards can be ordered online by registered students and mailed directly to them in their home countries. My next question is about printing on campus. So first, I think I'll ask Dr. Mr. Decker, and then I'll ask for Dr. Clark and Dr. Keshen to chime in about their campuses. Is there anywhere on campus where students can utilize printing services at the reduced page rate that departments and libraries offer?
Thank you for that question. I'm not aware that there is right now. However, as we open up study space and the library space for students, I would expect that printing services would be a part of that.
Dr. Clark?
A very similar response. So it's in the number of items that are to be considered when we identify study space, also lab space and printing, and that would include one specific category of student. Our naval architecture and our marine engineering systems design students have asked and posed a question around plotter space. So plotters are, in my very naive sense, very large printers, and when we do decide what we will do about that on campus, that type of printing will also be included.
Dr. Keshen, Grenfell campus printing?
Yeah, we have some students who have done printing on campus. Process again is quite simple. Can contact our ITS help desk and we can make all the arrangements that are appropriate to do that.
Great. And now I'd like to ask Darcy to bring Gavin Watson, the director of CITL, the Center for Innovation in Teaching and Learning, to join us on the screen. We have a question related to the use of ProctorU. We'll just give Darcy a second to see him. All right, so Dr. Watson, question. There's been a lot of online chatter related to the use of ProctorU, in particular concerns over privacy at home, granting access to personal computers, and student anxiety in response to video monitoring. How will one balance privacy and academic integrity?
Well, I first want to say thanks for the question and acknowledging that it really is a balance between students' rights to privacy and ensuring the integrity of everybody's degrees and courses. So this has been a question that we've been considering, and I want to let everybody know that I understand that being enrolled in a course where there would be online invigilated assessment through ProctorU may feel a little bit strange. You may feel as though that granting access to a computer and having an invigilated assessment at your house is different than coming on campus to have an exam. As you can appreciate though, as we've talked, everybody's personal safety, health, and well-being is a priority here. And so I acknowledge that that means that we can't come on campus. And it's really important then to ensure that we've got a way to engage in online invigilated assessments when it needs to take place. I also acknowledge that mental health is important too. And so it's everybody needs to know that the Senate of the university approved the recommendation that online private exams via ProctorU only be used when no other option is feasible. And I know that faculty and instructors have been working hard to ensure that for the fall semester, the vast majority of courses will be using alternative assessment means that don't require ProctorU. So as an example, we know that of all of the undergraduate sections that are happening on, at Memorial this fall, only 2% have requested to use ProctorU as a mode and mean of assessment. I do need to let you know that ProctorU has been used on campus for over 5 years, and we've had success with that vendor and that service. And when it was first approved, and within the last 6 weeks, we've gone through and had a look at the vendor's privacy assessment and looked at their policy to ensure that it has students' privacy and best interests at its core. And that's what we found. So I expect that for those programs or courses where it's decided that having an online invigilated assessment is an important way to ensure the integrity of a program, that ProctorU will be used successfully. And in most cases, however, most assessments will be completed without the need of an online invigilated assessment like ProctorU.
Thank you very much. My next question is for Dr. Knudsen. An international student says they haven't received their visa and study permit yet. Can I extend the drop deadline to 100% to refund my fees?
Yes, great question. As a university, we're working very hard on that question around the extensions. And in fact, we expect to have some more information available tomorrow. So I'm wondering if the student would be able to write tomorrow, either write me, sknudsen@mun.ca, or look at my name and you can Google it on the MUN site. Or international@mun.ca. Like I said, we do expect some more information on that tomorrow.
Great. And getting back to printing on campus, on the St. John's campus, printing is available in the C2003 lab. Thank you, Dr. Supernal, for chiming in with that information. And my next question is for you. Are students going to be able to assist in research during the fall or winter semester?
That is an excellent question. Yes, absolutely. It very much depends on the discipline and the particular research that they're being engaged in. So if you are in the area of your where your research will be taking place, if you're on the St. John's campus, Grenfell, or Marine Institute or the Lab Institute, the labs are pretty much open. So pretty much everyone who is doing research or conducting research at Memorial is back in the lab with some changes. It's different than how it used to be, and there's a lot more controls and you have to go through some training, etc. But research is going pretty much full steam, again with some changes, and it may take a little bit longer than usual. For undergrads, the majority of what I understand for research that's going on for undergraduates is remote, but the faculty are being very creative in putting together activities, research activities that a student can carry out remotely. So for honor students, I'm in psychology, for example. I've got 2 honor students and they're working on analyzing data that we've already collected and doing literature reviews and things like that. So research is going on. It's slightly different than how it used to be, but it is definitely at almost 100%. Thanks for that question.
I have a question that I think Dr. Abrahams will be able to answer relatively quickly because we only have a few minutes left. From a first-year student who was wondering if professors are allowed to hold classes on Saturdays.
Yes, we do offer classes on Saturdays.
Quick as I thought. I have a few more questions as well now for Dr. Knudsen. Let me find them. What is the minimum number of courses that an international student has to be registered for?
At the undergraduate level, it would be 3 in order to maintain a full-time status, and we do encourage all students who are studying remotely to maintain full-time status. If you have any questions about that, again, write Sonia and at international@mun.ca, and I can answer more specific questions. But in general, we do ask that you remain full-time. It is an important requirement from IRCC, whether you are here or abroad. And at the undergraduate, 3 courses.
Another question for you. International students cannot work ISWEP or MUSEP positions before they have a valid study permit and SIN number. What other methods are there for international students to gain important experience?
So you're correct. Without a study permit, which will then allow you to have a social insurance number, you can't actually begin a job or any kind of work. And so it's not possible for you to get Canadian work experience, or at least Canadian paid work experience. There are opportunities to volunteer, and we have a volunteer bureau on campus, which you can access and get some Canadian experience in that way. But also, we are working very hard to be able to bring you into Canada at some point once the federal government responds to our advocacy and does open the borders. And once you arrive, then we will be able to help you get that social insurance number and to be able to begin actually getting work experience. So hopefully that's sooner rather than later.
Another question for you. Our first visa approval has not been announced yet. If we pay the tuition, is it possible to get it refunded if the visa will be rejected?
Yes, up to the drop add date, you'll be able to get 100% of it refunded. And as I said, we are expecting a decision around the drop add date by tomorrow.
Okay, I think that I've answered most of the questions that I've seen in the chat. I'm just scrolling through to see if there's anything that I've missed. Not sure if I mentioned that the attic in the St. John's campus, operated by Monsu, also offers photocopying on the St. John's campus. So I'm not seeing any last questions. Dr. Timmons, would you like to close the event for us?
I just want to thank all of the students who joined us and asked questions. They're brilliant questions. I learned because I'm new here too, so I was learning with you. A special shout out, one of our students said hi from Nigeria. It's a long way away, and I know the time isn't the same, so thanks for joining us. To all of you, this is a challenging time. Get engaged. Take advantage of the opportunities online to connect, to participate in activities. Check out our student supports. We want wraparound services so that we can lift you up when you need to be lifted up and support you while you're studying. We all are here for you to help you be successful. And it's really important that you get engaged. Also, stay safe, and thank you again. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you to our moderator. But most of all, thank you to each and every one of you. And remember, when you see me on the street, don't grab me and hug me, because we're not allowed to do that. But yell out and wave and let me know who you are, where you're from, what you're studying, because I'm really missing that this September. So everyone take care and be safe.